whatever success I've achieved in my writing career, it's been so largely due to the enthusiasm, the creativity, the sheer just hard work and involvement of independent books. So it feels like a real honor to be nominated for this book prize. Just a really sort of lovely. I'm not going to say culmination because that sounds very final, but a sort of lovely expression of my relationship with independent bookshops over the years. And I think independent bookshops they're such an important part of not just of the retail scene, but of our communities. If you shop regularly in an independent bookshop, you will know the bookseller. They will know you. They will know your tastes. They'll recommend. They'll be part of your creative and emotional journey through your reading. So yes, wonderful to have a week celebrating independent bookshops and everything that they do and achieve for our cultural landscape. I'm sort of thinking back. I mean, it's impossible not to sort of think back over the last 15, 16, however many months it's been since the beginning of this pandemic, and just the extraordinary resolve of independent booksellers up and down the land, the speed with which they adapted to these new circumstances. It's really, really something to celebrate. And actually, I'm thinking about it, it's not just been in this country, but I think all over the world, booksellers have been getting onto bicycles and even in some cases skateboards to deliver books locally, which just fills me with joy, really. So I'm just, I feel really, really privileged to be a little part of that. Voyage of the Sparrowhawk is about two orphans, Ben and Lottie, who you can see here. There's Ben and there's Lottie, and their dogs, who you might not be able to see. I'm not sure you can see them on the screen. Their dogs, that's Elsie, who is based on a dog who comes to boot camp with me 3 days a week in my local park, Elsie the Spaniel. And this is Federico the Chihuahua, who is based on a dear friend's Chihuahua, now departed, and the book is in fact dedicated to the Chihuahua. So Ben and Lottie and their two dogs in the aftermath of World War I, both in difficult situations at home, both orphans, both with possibly family on the other side of the channel, both needing to get away. They meet when Lottie rescues/steals the Chihuahua, and they need to get away from the place they are in England because Ben's going to be sent to an orphanage, Lottie's going to be sent away to boarding school, we're going to be separated from their dogs, and the Sparrowhawk, which is Ben's the narrowboat that Ben lives on. The reason it's called Voyage of the Sparrowhawk is because they decided to run away on the narrowboat across all the way down the canal network and along the Thames and around Kent and across the Channel to France to try and find the people who they hope are still alive, with whom they'll be able to make a new home. So there you go. It's a sort of big adventure story, and anybody who has ever been on a narrowboat will know how difficult it is to run away on a narrowboat, because that's the slowest thing that it's hard. I mean, my nephew's been on a narrowboat, and he allegedly said to my sister, he was sort of looking at a ducks walking along the riverbank, and he's saying we are moving slower than ducks waddle, which is one of the challenges of writing the book, was how to make them escape on a narrowboat. And the answer is they need a lot of allies and a lot of people who are going to help them along the way to trick the police. It was terrible. It was extraordinary. Just, people are like, oh, you'll have so much more time to write. Well, first of all, no. I have I have a day job, a publishing day job, and that was, if anything, I've never worked harder at that in my life. So I didn't have time for that. Then plus everybody was at home. The children were meant to be, one was supposed to be on her year abroad in South America, another one was supposed to be at Bristol at university. They were both home. My husband was really ill, so there wasn't more time for writing at all by any means. But also, it was so distracting. The world outside was. I mean, I think so many people had the same that same experience. I was lucky. I had the day job, which there was a bit of a wobble, but that kept going. And I had 2 writing contracts. So from that point of view, it wasn't any insecurity. So I was very lucky from that point of view. But in terms of actually being able to create, it was really hard. So one of the contracts, I'll show you another book. One of the contracts was with a publisher called Zephyr, with whom I did this book, which is called 8 Princesses in a Magic Mirror, which is a collection of illustrated stories, illustrated by this beautiful, wonderful, wonderful artist called Lydia Corey. And I have been working all through lockdown. I was working on a new book of short stories called The Girl Who Talked to Trees, which is about a girl who talks to trees. And as a result, and for that, I had to. My research essentially was reading about trees, learning about trees, and then walking around woodland, talking to trees myself and sort of looking at them and saying, if you could talk to me, what would your voice be? So it was kind of trippy and I mean, really trippy, but actually in a really good way. And so it was a wonderful lockdown project because it just really plugged me in that slightly trippy way, but rooted me, if you'll excuse the pun, sort of really rooted me in the natural world, to slow down, pay attention, think about what trees might be telling us. And they were short stories, which, I mean, short stories are by no means easier to write than novels, but what you don't have to do with a short story is just sort of hold this enormous plot. That it's just by their very nature, they're shorter, more contained. So that was what I spent a lot of lockdown doing. And then I was also contracted to write a novel, which I'm working on now. And that I found I just couldn't write it. What I could do was plan. So I have planned this book that I'm writing at the moment within an inch of its life in a way that I've never planned any other book before, because I had ideas, but what I couldn't do was put in emotion I couldn't put myself into it, because myself was already there was so much of myself was going into real life. I just couldn't put, it was just too much. The sales director at Faber, he once said to me, he said, good books always rise up like cream, which is nice. It's a nice thing to think, but it's a nice thing to believe. I think it's a very, very crowded market. A lot of books have been, postponed. So the market, like I say, the market is very crowded, and I think you have to shout very loudly to be heard. There's been this, publishing has done well, and books have done well through the pandemic. So I hope that there's been a sort of rediscovered joy of reading, and I hope that continues to grow. I do believe the arts have never been more important. I wish they were getting more support, but maybe we won't go there. But yeah, I think we need the arts more than ever. I think without the arts, we would have forgotten who we are. And that needs to be recognised. It's not just a nice add-on to life. It's what makes life worth living. funny because it's almost always the last book that I've written. So at the moment, my favourite book is Voyage of the Sparrowhawk. But I do actually have a really special. It does have a really special place. The other day I said I was talking about my books with my children, and I said, of all the characters that I have ever written, Lottie, who's the heroine of Voyage of the Sparrowhawk, that Lottie is the one I love the most. And there was a pause, and my eldest daughter said, "Yeah, Mummy, she's the one who is most like you." Oh, is it a short message? If there's a short message, it's just keep writing and keep the faith, actually. Yeah, just keep believing. But yeah, just keep on writing. You only get better by practicing. You only get better by just writing every day. I think somebody else asked me something similar recently. And I said, you have to be, especially at the moment, be kind to yourself. Don't expect everything you write to be brilliant. Don't expect things to happen fast. Be kind and gentle to yourself, but at the same time, keep turning up. By which I mean keep turning up at the page. Stephen King said something similar. But yeah, keep turning up at the blank page and keep writing, and one day, eventually, it will happen.